this is a message that is something that I definitely could have used, that I probably received in some form from someone or something years ago when I was just starting out on my journey and I wasn't sure if I was going to figure it out or if it was all going to pan out, or I had times where I didn't know what the next step was. And sometimes we just need a reminder about the truth of who we really are. And this world, this existence, this path that you are on in particular is really about welcome into the Out of Our Minds podcast. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. Today's a solo episode. It's just going to be me, Bella, chatting with you. And I'm really excited to share this message, especially if you're listening to it near the time that it comes out in Sagittarius season, because there's a lot of fire, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of powerful energy that we can harness into. And in our community, we were just doing this new moon, the Sagittarius new moon workshop, and I really became super clear on what this season is calling us to do, to embrace. And as such, I wanted to share a message with you today that is very much in alignment with that cosmic energy and is also something relevant to your journey. And I think if you're listening to this, you are someone that either is a spiritual entrepreneur, has an idea, a vision of something, whether it's career, business related or not, but there is something in your soul that you came here to awaken, right? There's something within your vessel that you're here to explore, right? Your fractal of the light that you are meant to uncover and play with. So this topic of being a genius, okay? This idea that we each have a genius, really the larger question, do we even each have a genius? Is it possible for there to be, essentially a billion and more expressions of genius in this world? And I love this term of genius because it really can be triggering in a way where we confront ourselves with this idea of, if I am capable of that, if that is something that I could even do, right? We have these pictures painted to us of the world's greatest geniuses, the goats of the world, right? Whether they're athletes or scientists or singers, dancers, whatever it might be, artists. And we have this one picture, right? Limited scope of what it means to be a genius. And I have a firm belief that, to me, is proven time and time again because of the lens I have on life, which is a key piece of it, that everybody has genius. Everybody is a genius and is able to awaken that. So I want to break down what that really means today and to help you understand what you can do. And honestly, it's kind of just like a fiery kick up the butt for you to realize that you just have to keep going and you are going to awaken your genius. And honestly, this message is something that I feel like me 3 years ago, even a year and a half ago, could have really used. And so I'm really speaking to you. I'm speaking to the one that isn't sure if it's going to pan out, that is just not clear about the next step, right? Maybe you just aren't sure what to do next, if it's really going to work out, if you should have started this, if you should have quit your job, if this was all a mistake, right? There's a lot of doubts that can swirl when you throw yourself into that fire, which is so beautiful. And I want to be the voice to keep you going. I want to be the voice to keep you on the path and to help you have a few takeaways to remind you and make you truly believe that you really are a genius and you are going to find your thing. It's already in there. It already exists. It's just looking for the right place and time and environment to come out. This message wants to come through because sometimes we just need a reminder about the truth of who we really are. And this world, this existence, this path that you are on in particular is really about the frameworks and the mindset and the lens on life that you create. And I want you to have a lens on life that aligns with this idea of being a genius, that every single one of us has a genius within, that we are a genius, right? And the truth is that we've been given all of these limited viewpoints about what it is to be a genius, what it is to be the greatest of all time and to be excellent at our craft. And sometimes those definitions are very expansive and they're great and they inspire us to go out and do the damn thing. But sometimes we catch ourselves in the comparison trap. And we think that because somebody else is doing it in this way and finding success in that way, that must mean that's the only way to do it. And this message that wants to come through has a big picture and a little picture. It has the reminder that is the ultimate truth about who you are as a being. And it also has some really practical reminders, right? Reminders are things that you already knew, either you know them on a soul level or you learned them once before and you just forgot. And so I'm here to give you that snap of the revelation that is going to make it click back into place. And some of these are more practical and tangible, which I love to give, tactical, practical things that you can do in your life to actually feel this to be true. But so the first part of this that was coming through very strongly is to know that you are here as a unique fractal of the light. Your soul, right, before it was in this physical body, it worked with an entire council of light beings, of other souls, its guides, its ancestors, to choose when and where and with who it was meant to make its appearance here on Earth. This was all planned. Your existence is not random at all. Not to mention how many things had to go right for you to be here listening to this right now. Aside from that, there was this plan. There was this soul, right? I think there's a movie called Soul or something by Disney or something like that, an animated movie. And it really reveals the process, right? This is something that is also explained by Barbara Ann Brennan in this book, Hands of Light, which I always have near me these days that I'm reading about the human energy field. But it talks a lot about energetics and the soul. And it explains how your soul, right, picks out the parents, the circumstances, and it also sort of maps out this life path while leaving room for your free will to help you face the exact circumstances, obstacles, challenges, joys, sorrows to catalyze your gifts and your mission coming online. And it's said that every soul has a personal mission and a global mission, right? A personal mission that they will awaken first, and then that will help them expand out into what they're meant to bring to the world, right? World could just be their circle, their family, their community, or literally to a world stage. And if you think about that being true, you have a soul. You're here listening. You're in a human body, right? Supposedly, I don't know, maybe you're something else listening to this right now. And that means to me that you're meant to be here and there was a plan. Even further, when we talk about human design, the foundation of human design, really what it's built on, is this idea of your soul choosing the time and place for it to be born, for it to be created through a physical body, and that you take your first breath at a very divine moment that is going to give you the neutrino stream that will imprint into your DNA and will help give you this GPS, this mechanical blueprint of who you are. And you're given that, right? We were given the human design system so that we could understand ourselves better as humans, so we could understand ourselves better as beings, as souls. To that end, that is how I want you to approach your life. Less about the physical 3D and being in this body, and more about the fact that this body and your being is this vessel for the divine, and that there was an intelligence that chose, that said, we want you, we want her. We want him to come down to earth, to do her work, to realize her legend and her potential and her purpose here, her mission, right? That hero's journey, and to take that seriously. And all of that is why I believe that everybody has a genius. And if you define genius, it's really considered just an exceptional portray of either intellect or creative something, right? It's essentially being exceptional, quote unquote, exceptional at a craft, a talent. And usually in, the typical definition, it would be something that seems natural to people. Now, I actually really like this part about it being natural, because to me, when you're in the presence of a genius, I think you're just watching someone who has cleared away a lot of the dust and a lot of the blurred lens that some of us develop in our life so that they can actually let their soul come out and do its thing, whether that's an athlete or a singer or performer, a scientist, someone making a great breakthrough. They have figured out a way to put themselves in the right place, the right environment, the right time, with the right people to let themselves really come alive. And that means that we all have that. And something that I've really learned through human design and through these different modalities of self-discovery is that it's really less about competition and being better than someone else or using someone else as a model for how to become great. And it's much more about understanding what your set of gifts are inside your toolbox, right? Your toolbox being this physical vessel that you're in, your toolbox being the activations in your DNA, in your gifts, right? All the gates, right? The gifts in the world of Gene Keys and human design, or your quirks, your past experiences, the things that you've been through that then give you a unique flavor on life, right? A unique lens on life. And I've learned that the people who we would consider a genius, right? The last episode we talked about Novak Djokovic, who is considered to be one of the greatest tennis players of all time. And ultimately, the man is just in his zone of genius. He found the thing that he loves and he has spent time doing it, right? He has kept going toward the dream that he has. And he listened to that dream that came from within him, not a dream that it was put on him by anybody else, but a dream from within. And we look at those people, and what I see someone just who listened to that internal compass, and someone that just kept going and showing up and trusting their own inner faculties to get them there. And there's a couple of stories I actually want to share in this episode to help contextualize and really inspire what I mean by awakening your own genius. And one of these is that recently I had a conversation with one of my siblings who pointed out that this other person in our life, he basically asked me like, oh, does it seem like person A has gotten a lot smarter since the last time I saw him? And I said, that's so interesting. First of all, I said, well, I always saw this person as, incredibly smart and a genius just because spending so much time with them and loving this person and whatever. And then what I said is, I actually think that they are just in their gifts as in their human design. They're just really living and breathing their work and what they came here to do. And as a side note in particular, it was interesting because this gift that I was speaking to is what in human design is called the Genius Freak channel. And just because it's called Genius Freak doesn't mean it's the only flavor of quote unquote genius, but it's this channel between the mind and the throat. And it's this design of people who are meant to speak their opinions and they're meant to actually be very well understood. And because of that, they can go through a struggle of sometimes not communicating clearly, right? Sometimes not actually expressing something in the clearest way. And so this person, from what I know, they've just dedicated themselves to improving that thing that they naturally do well, but that sometimes isn't perfect. And by being in their flavor of their gifts, they've come across as a genius. This is what my sibling had noticed is, wow, when I watch this person talk and be who they are, I'm like, wow, they're super smart in this case, right? And I said, well, it's so interesting because I think it's like if you were to watch an artist do their thing and they're in their flow and they're expressing their gifts and whatever that might look like, we would also say I'm in the presence of a genius. And I think each of us has this going on. Anytime we are dedicated to the honing of our craft, the honing of who we really are, right? Whether that's super specifically through a channel in human design or is just something more broad that we love to do and that brings us joy. And so we dedicate ourselves to it day after day. Someone else will interpret that as that's genius, right? That is someone in their flow who is exceptional at something. And it seems like they're exceptional at it because it's their nature. And their nature ties back to this idea of it being essentially coded into our DNA. It's coded into our cells because we are the light, because we are made from the infinite intelligence all around us, that it must be that we can all access that within us and we can unleash it. And we've been given these physical bodies. You have been given your physical body and your experience on this earth to awaken and play with your fractal of the light, right? With this fractal of the thing that made everything around you. What started as consciousness and then turned into form, that's the same energy that moves through you every day. That's the energy that chose to incarnate into you. And so that little story just sparked me to think about, wow, it's so interesting because, it's not that any one person is more special than the other. It's actually that we're all quote unquote special in our own way. And this genius idea is not reserved for just one person or a select few. I truly believe it's innate to us. And I'm telling you this because I want you to remember and to take action from a place of knowing that you have this within you. And now it's very different from this overinflated sense of confidence that would result in maybe, a cockiness or an arrogance around being better, because the type of genius I'm talking about is one that gives you permission to individuate yourself, not in spite of or compared to someone else, but to individuate yourself within the me, myself, and I context, within the idea that you have your own little fractal, your sense of self that you came here to play with. And the universe, God, just wants you to have a relationship essentially between you and it, whatever that higher power is, so that you can bring to this world the thing that you're here to bring to the world, right? That service, that light, that love that wants to be channeled through you. And as we know about any channel, whether we're talking about a stream, a river, or a pipe that sends water to your sink, we need that channel to be clear. We need that channel to do its job, to let things flow through it. The thing that blocks the channel is basically thinking that it's not even supposed to be doing that, or that how can I have water rushing through me? I'm whatever. I'm just a pipe. What about this fountain over here, right? It's that world of comparison that dims the light that is already within you. There's this really great analogy that Nikki uses a lot and that we kind of have adapted when we do our coaching sessions together and we're explaining what we do for people, is the idea that you're this light bulb, right? You already exist as a whole bright light-filled being. And sometimes there's just dust and dirt on the light bulb. And what we're trying to do is clean off that light, that light bulb, right? So that it can shine. And then what I say is then we're also trying to learn the flavor of the light. What's the light bulb made of? What is your fractal of the light meant to be like, right? That's where the human design comes in. There's self-discovery or the dusting off of that dirt on the light bulb so we can actually see the light in its full form. And everybody's light is a little bit different, right? The commonality is that it's all light. So I feel that there is someone out there that just needs a reminder to know to not give up and to not give in to the thoughts or feelings or stories that suggest that you are not capable of genius, that you are too similar to this person, or, well, they already did it and they already crushed it and everybody likes this person, so I shouldn't try. No. I want you to dig deep within, to put blinders on for a moment and tap into the uniqueness of the fire in your heart and see if you can feel your own essence in there, that little flickering flame. And notice that if you can tap into that, maybe that's just as simple as feeling your pulse or as noticing your breath, and realize that by the nature of having your unique essence in there, that heart beating, that awareness that is able to process these words I'm saying, that by having that means that you're here to express that light in a unique way. So there's about 4 main things that I want to break down for you on essentially the idea of how to be a genius, okay? And these 4 main points that break down a bit more tactically what this means. And if you found yourself listening to this episode and really resonating with these words and thinking, wow, yes, like I really gotta believe in myself and start to take action from this place of like, hell yeah, I have something to offer to this world. Hell yeah, I'm going to keep going. So I want to break down these 4 points. And the first one is quite simple, but sometimes overlooked. And it's to not give up. Do not give up. And literally just keep going. Just keep going, okay? This is overlooked because I think we just forget that sometimes there's a truth about this 3D idea of like, just keep showing up and doing the damn thing, right? And what's interesting is I thought about this too, because recently I was talking to the husband of someone who is a very successful podcaster, a podcasting duo, and this was the husband of one of them, who was sharing with me that in the world of podcasting in particular, just as an example, that really sometimes it's just about keeping going. And that there were other people who had started a podcast at the same time as his wife. And essentially it felt like the common denominator of why one makes it over the other sometimes is truly just a function of the fact that one person kept going and the other didn't. And it almost sounds too simple and too obvious. Like, well, yeah, if you stop and you quit, how are you ever going to be successful? And this is different from, pivoting and quitting and changing something because it's not aligned for you anymore. Rather than, as opposed to pivoting or stopping because you just didn't think you could do it. And I know that this can feel maybe confronting, but I really think sometimes we just need to hear the simple truth that you just need to keep going. You just need to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and take another step. And then take another one. And then take another baby step. And then maybe take a leap. And then go back to taking baby steps. And that's literally all that it is sometimes, is to just keep going. And what that actually means, now that I say it out loud and hear myself say it, is you're honoring continuously your essence and your fractal of light, and the fact that the universe, God, higher power, wants to use you as a vessel. And if you turn the channel off and close off the pipeline, it can't use you anymore, right? And it wants to move through you. So by keeping going, we allow ourselves more experiences, right? Aside from the idea of, time, right? And just day after day, it's like, let's talk about life in just an accumulation of moments and experiences and an ever evolving now moment. That ever evolving now moment is where the divine accesses you. And it accesses you through these actions and these ways of being that are aligned with your soul's mission and your soul's path. That's what it means to keep going, is to keep letting yourself be used as the paintbrush for the divine. The second thing is to sometimes put blinders on and just do you. Get to know yourself, your gifts, your way of being, and basically stop playing by other people's rules. And there's a time to be tapped into expanders, right? Meaning to be inspired by others. And there's also a time to kind of go hermit mode. There is a time when you have to, like I said, put blinders on and just focus on your individuation and what you are here to do. And listen, expanders are really helpful. I'm a full proponent of being in spaces and with people and mentors and all the things and being inspired by people who are doing similar things to you. And if you're doing that, also use that as an opportunity to spark and to create any catalysts for more healing and transformation, to remind you that if somebody else is able to do it, that is just more proof that you can do it. So the point is, feed yourself, right? Create this environment where you're able to focus on your craft. If you're being inspired by somebody else, let that be a trigger for what then you want to create in your own life, in your own world. I just made this reel on our Instagram. I've been doing a lot of garden analogies this month. And this one was essentially about how ultimately we all have access to the same garden. We all have access to the same, resource pool. And we're all going in and arranging our own bouquet. We're going in and we're choosing out what we like, right? Some of us have been to have had similar life experiences. We're using the same modalities, right? If we're being really specific to, even if you were to expand it out to like a house builder, an architect, everybody's using the same tools. pretty much, right? Yeah, some are different quality, some are from a different source. But ultimately, you're taking the wood and the brick and the stuff and the mortar and you're putting up a house. But the thing that makes it different is the builder, is the person doing it. Same thing with this garden analogy. We all have access to the same stuff. We're all on this equal playing field of being a vessel of the divine. But that doesn't matter. It's about how you arrange it, how you put it together. So as you're going out into the world and picking out and learning these different things, bring them back in through your heart, through your unique essence, and make it your own. And that's why this idea of, going hermit mode or putting your blinders on or kind of just getting obsessed with your own craft is so helpful to unlocking your genius, because that is how you discover more of what makes you you, right? And then whenever you see somebody else crushing it and being in their zone of genius, it just confirms even more for you that it's possible for you. That, okay, cool. That means that it's possible. I'm going to go figure out my own version of this. The third thing is to meticulously tend to your environment. Now, when I say environment, I hope you know that means it's pretty all-encompassing. Yes, your physical environment, very important, but also the environment of your vessel, right? This is where really tending to and taking care of how you feel best, right? The foods, the activities, the movement, the friends, the community, right? The people that you surround yourself with. It's really important. This is often why the hermit mode, the hermit season can be really important, is because you are trying to meticulously curate the environment that helps you shine. What's coming to mind is this really famous saying from Albert Einstein, which is that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And it's pretty obvious when you think about it that way, that putting yourself against a different type of metric or a different environment or trying to thrive through a mechanism that is just not meant for you, obviously is not going to make you feel like a genius. It's going to make you feel like the opposite, right? Which is not true. You're just believing that, right? The key word there is believe. So this right environment, I think, is so huge too, because in so many other spiritual teachings, right? In Buddhism, there's like this eightfold path, and some aspect of that they talk about is getting into different right mechanisms. So there's right environment, right mind, right action. And actually, I don't know if there's one actually called right environment, but essentially the idea that I'm relating here is that being in a right state is incredibly key for you living this aligned, authentic, expressive life. And curating your environment is how you start to also rewire your brain toward this idea of being a genius. If you're new to this podcast and it's the first episode that you've listened to, first of all, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Second, this is a very good environment to be in, because everything that we talk about, all the things that we do and practice, whether it's on the podcast or in our Oasis community or in our mastermind, is all tuned to this idea of everybody awakening their genius and honoring your soul's path and why you came here, really remembering who you came here to be. And aside from that, that's where you have to make those decisions and those key aligned actions that are going to start to adjust your sails towards the right place, towards the right environment, the right place, the right time. And there's a very key concept also in human design, which in particular relates to your environment, right? What they talk about in terms of like the actual places that you do best in, but also just understanding who you are energetically, your gifts, your profile, how you learn, right? All these tools that we're given to help us unleash that genius self that can thrive, right? It's the Einstein quote of, if you're a fish, swim in the pond, swim in an ocean, find your vessel of water that feels right. Don't keep trying to climb a tree. It's just not going to feel right or work. Or if you do want to climb a tree, you can be that fish that comes up with an invention and slingshots them to the top of the tree, right? But the point is, don't let yourself be limited by this one narrow thing just because that's what you saw somebody else do or what your parents told you that was right, or just because the doubt is coming up, right? Put yourself in the places and spaces and environments and energies that awaken that thing in you. A lot of times this is as simple as taking 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is out of your day to put yourself in a place or activity that awakens that sense of natural flow, going for a walk, being in nature, dancing, singing, journaling, writing, whatever it is for you, making your matcha, like those little things that put you in this zone of flow where the mind has taken a back seat and the body is really taking hold and the soul is driving. And now the last thing, which really piggybacks off the third one, is to realize that it's not really about you. It's about you being a vessel for the divine. And this approach will actually ignite your authentic self more than worrying what you look or sound like, okay? So it's kind of funny because when we focus on our individuation, sometimes that can look like an actual over obsession about how other people perceive it versus saying, you know what, it's not really about quote unquote me and this mask of who I am. It's about my individuated portion of the divine that wants to use me to be of service. So suddenly when you're dancing, it's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels, and it's about you and that higher power, that energy that's moving through you, right? It's about recording a podcast and putting your ego aside, leaving it at the door, and connecting in with the message that wants to be shared, right? This is really a key concept that actually I love that Jen and Zoe talks about sometimes, which is to not use your business, for example, as something to just appease yourself or to get something out of it, right? And really the nuance of this idea is to imagine that you are in service to your business, your creation, your people, your family, whatever it is, and seeing yourself as this paintbrush. So ironically, when you realize that it's not really about you, you actually become the authentic, individuated portion of the light that you were always meant to be. And then your individual self isn't from this, overinflated egotistical sense of self. It's actually the soul sense of self that is unique and is meant to express itself in this way that is irreplicable. So I want you to really take a second to let this soak in and to really reflect for yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I'm here to do? Why did I even step onto this path in the first place? And it's okay if you don't have an answer, but what we're trying to do is to call back the energy, call back the attention back into here, into the comfort of your own heart, and to connect in with that fiery flame, that thing that is keeping the lights on, that universal consciousness in you, and to connect back into that. This is something that is a practice, is something that becomes your second nature, where at first, sometimes when we start out on this journey, and it's totally okay, it was part of my journey and it was a very important part of it, where it was more about, the external metrics, the approval, the success, the money, the whatever. And that was actually helpful because it just got me on the path. It got me to keep going, right? It got me on the path. That's all that mattered. Once I was on the path, once you're on the path, then you get to iterate and start to be a bit more curious and conscious about how you do things. And that's where this conversation comes in. This is where you realize that you're actually doing a massive service to others, to the world, to God and the higher power, when you consider yourself to be a genius. It's actually a disservice to dim your light because somebody else needs that light, right? Somebody else's path and some revelation, some healing, something that they need is illuminated by your flickering light, by your bulb that is meant for you, that is you. And if you shut that off, then it's a disservice, really. And that's where you can think about, it's not about you, but it also is you and your fractal of the light choosing to honor how freaking incredible it is to even be here, to have been chosen for this life, for this 3D play that we're in. I mean, just having a moment of gratitude for how lucky we are to be alive and conscious in this iteration of life, in this incarnation, is an incredible gift. And to me, that is a huge reason to squeeze the juice out of it and to honor it and to tend to my relationship with the divine, with God, with higher power, with whatever resonates with you, right? For me, it's with God, with universe, with source. And to ask, what can I do to help you experience life through me, to bring something of service to the world? What is my personal legend that I am here to fulfill that is then going to be of service to the world? And when I do that, there's no question that the genius comes through. There's no question that the light comes through and that my unique way of doing things that can't be replicated comes through. I truly have healed 99% of comparison wounds, if not honestly all of them, by focusing more on this individuated portion of me as the light. Because when I do that, I realize that not only does it feel good for me, but it also gives other people room to be themselves. Because when I worry less about how it's going to look or if it's as good as this or whatever external mindset that would be taking place there is, I come back to the real reason behind all of this. And I honor the fact that I am here for this very short moment in time as this soul that chose me. And I have gratitude for that soul. And I have gratitude for the entire team and council that chose to get me here. And I feel humbled by that. And because of that, I don't really care how it looks or how it sounds or if it's similar to this person. It doesn't matter because I'm doing me. I'm doing it through the soul of Bella Solinot that came here as the woman that she is, that chose to be born at that exact time to get my neutrino imprint. And I am just here to honor that. And I'm also here to have fun and have the confidence through it and to play and to adorn myself and to be spicy and shake things up and do it in my flavor. And me honoring that flavor is in service to God. That's the best thing that I could do. So I hope that this reframed the idea of being a genius to you. I hope that it reminds you what it's really about and helped you sift through the thoughts, emotions, feelings that you might be going through right now if you're in a bit of a dip or feeling some self-doubt or whatever it might be. And I just also want you to know that I'm rooting for you. And I love seeing people in their genius. It's because every time I see somebody else crushing it and going for their dream, it just confirms for me that we're all here to do that and we all have that within us. So thank you so much for listening to this. I would love to know if it resonated with you. Please leave a comment either on YouTube or on the Spotify prompt and send me a message too if this really resonated with you. I also want to take a second to plug and recommend our mastermind, which is an incredible space for spiritual entrepreneurs. If you're really on the path, you're going through it, you are making this vision come to life, I really want to encourage you to check out our mastermind, and you can join it at the link in bio. We have one call every month, 2-hour call plus exclusive trainings, an exclusive Slack channel just for spiritual entrepreneurs. And it's really an incredible space to actually get the how, right? The trainings, the way of being and doing that Nikki and I have used to create this global podcast community that we have. And it's just a very special space for anyone that knows that they're meant to do something unique in this life and that they're meant to bring that vision into the world through them in service to spirit, in service to a higher power. So join us, check it out in the link in the description. I love you so much. Oh, one more thing. Definitely keep up on our socials because we'll be posting the calendar of events that we have going on every single month inside the Oasis community membership, which is different from our mastermind, but they run on the same platform. But the Oasis membership is where you get the full calendar of new moon workshops, coherence activations, meditations, mini courses, all the things. And then the mastermind is the separate space and group program essentially that is for spiritual entrepreneurs that want to take that step further, that want to connect and be held accountable and really, do it together with other people who are forging their own path. So check all that out. If you're listening to this in December, we'll have a coherence activation happening live on Thursday, December 12th. So you can check that out inside of the Oasis membership. Thank you so much for listening. I love you so much. Let me know how this landed for you, and I'll talk to you soon.